Hi, my name is Nick Shell, and in theory, I'm the fourth most popular YouTuber in the world when it comes to making videos about hair loss. And one of the frequently asked questions is, what about hair transplants? People are trying to sort out, should I get a hair transplant? And ultimately I thought what would be interesting is if I just ask you, do you think I should get a hair transplant? Let's see those motions again. Do you think I should get a hair transplant? I guess that's the universal language for that. Here's why I'm asking that. By me asking what you think if I should get a hair transplant, it's a reflection of how you feel inside about yourself. So that's why it's an important exercise if you're new to the hair loss community. And I want to say this, I recognize that so many people in the hair loss community are not even balding. A lot of guys in their 20s or the late teens, they see the first signs of maybe their temples going back or their hairline no longer being straight across, but maybe starting to go up. It's not necessarily a receding hairline yet, it's just a changing hairline, and suddenly they include themselves in the hair loss community. Even though they may never go bald, they may never actually have a receding hairline, but I recognize that in the community of the hair loss community, that a decent amount are guys that will never actually lose their hair, but they are concerned, what if I do? So again, this is an important exercise. I want you to go ahead and just leave a comment right now. Just go ahead and just take a minute. In the comments right now, do you think that I should get a hair transplant? You can look at my hair. I'm 38 years old. I do not have a perfect hairline. I do not have perfect density. And it may or may not be obvious to you. And again, I think that might be a reflection of how you see yourself, whether or not you think I should get a hair transplant. Now I will do you a favor and lift up my hairline. There you go. That helps, doesn't it? So, and that's the thing. A lot of guys with my situation, as long as we don't have short hair, no one would ever really even pay attention. No one would ever notice. It's not that I have a comb over, it's just that my hairstyle downplays by default the fact that my hairline has definitely got the M shape going on. And so that's not a comb over. There's no denial there. It's just that if I have a very basic haircut where my hair is about 2 inches on top, that's how it's going to look. It's just going to be sort of vague. And a lot of people have said to me over the years, you are a perfect candidate to get a hair transplant. Why don't you do it now before it gets any worse? And that's a good point. Again, assuming that you're commenting about how you feel about yourself. Now consider this. One of the theories that I have personally created, I talked about this first on the internet before anybody else could, and no one really else has, but one of my many hair loss theories, and people call this bro science, but I just call it a generalization. One of my generalizations or theories about hair loss is that typically when you turn 35, that's pretty much the age that determines what the rest of your life's going to look like for hair loss. So in other words, if you've got a very low boxed in hairline and thick density at age 35, chances are, generally, you're not going to be the guy who at 70 probably shows any signs of balding at all. Meanwhile, if you're a guy like me who's 38, past the age of 35 and shows some signs, chances are, even if I never lose all my hair and I'm not completely bald on top, I'll have some noticeable hair loss. And if nothing else, when I'm 70, if nothing else, I'll have an obvious receding hairline and thinning going on. So that's the general theory. Age 35 determines it. So a lot of this has to do with it. As you're asking yourself, should I get a hair transplant? And remember, again, that's a reflection of how you feel about yourself. You imagine if you were me in my situation at age 38, would you? Now, of course, let's point out the obvious too. And I know this is part of the package, part of the deal. For a lot of guys that are young, or teenage years, 20s, and let me remind you, I've got my 20th high school reunion coming up at the end of this month in July. So that already tells you that the number of years I've been out of high school is greater to the number of years you've been alive for a lot of you, or at least equal to. So you can recognize in my situation, a guy who's married and has 2 kids, what would it be even worth the trouble to get a hair transplant? Kind of what's the point? My life is good. I don't see how getting a hair transplant would increase my life in any way. It would make any better. I personally don't see that. And again, your answer is a reflection of how you feel about yourself. But for me personally, I just don't see how it would help me at all. If anything, but then you're like, but Nick, you just said that like you're the fourth most popular YouTuber in the world when it comes to hair loss. So wouldn't that be good for your channel to get a hair transplant? Let me give a shout out to Hairliciously. He's more popular than I am. He subscribed, and I think that's such an honor that like someone who's got more subscribers and he was bigger than me when it comes to hair loss videos subscribed to my channel. So I hope you're watching. Shout out to you. But he's already doing that thing. That's his thing. He's got the hair transplant videos going on. I celebrate that. I'm happy for him. I just don't think it's for me. I think for me, my whole shtick on this thing is that I want to age in real life, in real time, and that way you can actually see what an average looking American guy is going to look like as he ages. What's his hair going to look like? You know, again, maybe I will never go bald. Maybe I'll eventually start working on an obvious balding spot in the back. Maybe I'll eventually have a detached, forelock hair. We'll find out in real time. And I think for me, and the identity of these videos, my identity as I create these videos about hair loss, I just want to be the guy that ages naturally, and we'll just kind of see where it goes. So while the topic of hair loss probably would be very engaging as far as in regards to someone who says, I actually got a hair transplant, again, like Hairliciously, which again, shout out and praise to. I hope you get even more subscribers by anyone who's never heard of you and they watch this channel. I hope that for you. But for me, I think it's better that I don't. I think it's important just to psychologically talk that out for the guys who ultimately wouldn't want a hair transplant. Closing this video, here's what I'm going to say. Again, please leave a comment determining whether or not I should get a hair transplant. But ultimately, what you should sort out too is, would that make you happy? If you can know that maybe you're only 25 years old and you see the earliest signs of your temples going back and maybe I could just get a hair transplant now and never have to worry about it. Well, keep in mind that a hair transplant is not a permanent fix. Ultimately, if you are going to be more aggressively balding, say 10 years later in your 30s, then still what might happen is the hair transplant may have helped certain areas, but then you need another hair transplant. And not all hair transplants take. So it's not like you can just simply buy happiness, that you can buy this cure. It's not that simple. It's not 100% effective. And of course, I would remind everyone that just because you don't go bald doesn't mean you're still going to be confident and happy with how you look or internally how you feel about yourself. So a hair transplant for a lot of people really helps them. But ultimately, I say that if you struggle with confidence anyway, you could be in this situation. Let me just throw this out there to let you sort this out psychologically. You could be in a situation where, again, maybe you're 25, your temples are starting to go back, but you're not actually losing your hair. Maybe your hairline is not straight across, but it's just kind of going up a little bit, but it's still a V, and you're not actually receding yet. You may easily be the guy that never loses any more hair beyond that. And what if you live your whole life fearing that you're going to go bald, but you never do? And see, that's what's interesting about this whole thing. Certain guys go bald young and they accept it and they move on with it. Ironically, there's other guys on the other end of the spectrum who don't actually go bald and never will, but they're really worried about it. So I can see how for some guys, maybe just getting the hair transplant might just kind of secure the deal for them and think, okay, now I don't have to worry about this, right? But again, that goes back to ultimately, and this is one of the themes of my channel, I want to basically create these videos to help you sort this out psychologically with hair loss. But just imagine the power that you have in your brain, that a young bald guy at 21 can shave it off, grow a beard, work out, and be happy and confident in himself. Though he wishes he could have had hair, he realizes that's not his lot. He could be happy and confident. the guy with the full head of hair that isn't actually going to go bald worries about his hair all the time, pays for a hair transplant that he ultimately probably didn't even need. There's some irony there. With that being said, I want you to leave a comment voting whether or not I should get a hair transplant. The comment section, in case you're looking for it, it's not up, no, stop looking up. It's right